Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about AWS OpenSearch. I will help you to understand how to ingest logs to AWS OpenSearch using a Logstash agent. And we will also talk about how to keep the cost under control while ingesting the logs to the OpenSearch. Before we go ahead with today's session, I wanted to give a quick introduction about myself. Myself, a software development engineer working for Trellix. I am a regular contributor to Medium. I also host in-person and virtual meetups. Apart from my professional life, I am a mom of two kids and I love cooking and gardening. Today's problem statement is all about a company is trying to ingest logs to OpenSearch, but during certain times, often here, the logs ingestion is high. How do we handle this using a provision search? So, in this demo, we will understand how to bring up the OpenSearch cluster and also create an EC2 instance. Use Logstash to ingest logs to the OpenSearch cluster. Let's understand the design. Here in the design, I have VPC. Within this VPC, I have two EC2 instances on two different availability zones. And I have a OpenSearch cluster which is deployed on the same VPC. I have Logstash agent deployed on both the EC2 instance which is responsible for sending the logs to the OpenSearch cluster. So I wanted to give a small heads up about what exactly is a Logstash. Logstash is an agent which sends the log to the OpenSearch cluster. It is shortly called as a data collection engine which does the real-time processing of logs. Here I have given a sample pipeline where you have an input, an output. So in the input we will have to mention the logs which we wanted to ingest. In the output we wanted to mention the endpoint of the OpenSearch cluster where the logs has to be reached. And for the debugging purpose we have std out our debug. So let's see the demo. For the demo, let's check out the demo. I have provisioned the OpenSearch cluster using Terraform. I wanted to show you how to provision the OpenSearch cluster. So I'm using Terraform. Using Terraform, I will do a Terraform init. I have the AWS access key and the secret key configured already. So after I do a clone, I just do Terraform init and then just do a Terraform apply. So after you apply, it takes few minutes and your OpenSearch cluster gets provisioned. Once your OpenSearch cluster is provisioned, you can find the OpenSearch on your AWS instance. So I have provisioned it in US East 2. So let's understand the code. So I have an OpenSearch cluster which is provisioned in US East 2 region. So I am creating the OpenSearch cluster in US East 2 region. The cluster OpenSearch cluster name is demo and the version what I'm using is 7.10 and the instance type is of d2 small dot elasticsearch and my EBS volume size for the purpose of this demo I'm keeping it small. It is 10 GB and I have provided the tags. I am giving the access policy so that this OpenSearch cluster is accessible for this IP. You can also provide multiple IPs. Make sure to change this IP to the IP of your of your laptop where you wanted to access the Kibana from. So this is the code for the bringing up the OpenSearch cluster. This code helps us to create a EC2 instance. I am creating an EC2 instance of type Amazon 2 and I am opening the incoming traffic for 44380 and port 22, and the instance name is web. The tags what I have mentioned is logstash instance, and I have provided my email ID for the owner. So this brings up your instance. Now your OpenSearch cluster is up and your instance is up. So let's understand how to install the logstash agent. I am downloading the logstash agent from the official Elasticsearch documentation. I am installing the JDK and then I am extracting the logstash, and for sending the logs to the OpenSearch cluster which is on AWS cloud, I wanted to install the plugin which is called as logstash-output-amazon ES. The pipeline which we talked in the previous slide is So here for the example purpose, I wanted to ingest the logs from var log anything which starts from star.log. I am sending it to an OpenSearch cluster which is on Amazon cloud. I wanted to provide the endpoint and give the access and secret key. Once you execute this command, you should be able to see the index called as production logs with today's state. So let's see if it is created. So here I have created an OpenSearch cluster called as demo. The version is 7.10 and this is a Kibana URL to access this OpenSearch cluster. And the security configuration which we talked previously, I have whitelisted this IP so that I will access this demo OpenSearch cluster from my laptop. So let's see if our index called as production_logs is created. Yes, it's created. So how do I create an index? You go to discover, you go to index management, and then check for indices. You see this indices is already there. So this is how you create index. So this is all about the demo for the logstash. So if you wanted to play around OpenSearch, just clone this and then do a Terraform in it, apply, and your OpenSearch cluster will be provisioned. So you have a endpoint star and you can start logstash using this command. So I have started logstash using this command. So here I have provided the secret and the access key and installed logstash like what we discussed. So this is how you install logstash. Now that the data pipeline is running, you should be able to see the logs on your OpenSearch cluster. So we are able to see the logs on the OpenSearch cluster. So click here, go to discover. You should be able to find an index on today's date and you should be able to see the fields. So we are going to see the logs for today. So we are seeing the logs for today. So we should be good with this. So with this we complete this demo, but we wanted to understand few cost optimization techniques. So we are ingesting logs every day to the OpenSearch cluster. However, we are also concerned about the storage and the cost for the OpenSearch cluster. So how do we manage the storage? So we manage the storage using index lifecycle policy. So index lifecycle policy helps us to delete the indexes which are older and not accessed. For example, here I have a policy which deletes a log after 4 days. So the index lifecycle policy has different kind of storages: hot, warm and cold. The indexes which is just arrived is called as hot, and then the older indexes are called as warm, and then in the cold indexes are stored in the S3 buckets. So we move the indexes from one phase to another. For example, before we delete the index, we move it to a phase called as read-only phase and then deletes. Here I have a policy, example policy, which deletes the index after 4 days, which keeps the index in the cold state for 2 days and hot state for another 2 days, and anything older than 4 days gets deleted. So take a look at it, and you can also have a different kind of index policy based on your requirement. So with this we close the session. If you have any doubts, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn ID.